What's up, guys? I wanted to talk a little bit about the trailer. That some things I didn't get a chance to get to, some things I didn't even really pick up the first time around. Sometimes you have to see something a few times, and you realize there's a few things you actually missed. Um, and I also talked a little bit about in my previous video how I felt it would be a good idea to at least hold back a few things, like as far as details or features, anything that, nothing major, but just something that would be a surprise to you when you played the game, that, wow, I didn't know that was in here. I like stuff like that. I don't think it's necessary to know everything there is in a game before you get it. It would be nice, I think, to hold back on a few things, especially if you think people would enjoy it, like some positive little details about the game. And that brought me to something I saw in the trailer, which I don't remember them mentioning as part of their when they released the information of all the additions and features to the game. And I saw in one of the on the online menu screen, I saw something. It said League, like a League tab, and it was highlighted in yellow. And I realized, wait a minute, does this mean you can run a league off this menu, in the game, like run your own league? Now, I'm not 100% sure because they haven't mentioned it as far as I know, but it has to mean something, and I'm excited because that to me is a real game changer for the online portion, right? There's already something I've always wanted, and I really think is going to add a lot to the online, and it's going to make a big difference. The adding AI cars to any race, and you can fill the field if you want. And I think that's going to be something that is such a big boost to online. I think it's going to make a big difference. It's not going to cure everything. It's not going to be the cure for people that race like idiots or who don't take it seriously. But I do think it will create a buffer. I think it'll create excitement. It might spur people to run longer races. One of the things I hate about online is that all you see are people running these quick 5 or 7 lap sprints. That's not NASCAR racing. I want to see longer races. I think that's where you get the real enjoyment, making those little gains. And I think, adding the AI to the field, I think that's going to be big. And, hopefully it works well. And hopefully, everything that they implemented, it does, work as intended. And if it does, I really think you guys are going to be surprised at what a difference it'll make. So that's something I've always wanted, and they're adding it. And that's great, and I look forward to it. But this other thing that I've always wanted was the ability to run a league. And Utechnics had promised that a couple years ago. And I think you guys remember, they did say that you're going to be able to run leagues. And you could organize a league and stuff on a menu or page. It never happened. And I don't remember 704 Games ever mentioning that. But now I see that in the menu. So that has me excited. And the fact that they never even mentioned it, or I haven't heard it, it's exciting. And it's like one of those surprises that I'm talking about. It's like, wow, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think they would implement that. And they're doing it. And the addition of the AI cars to the field online, that's something I didn't think they were going to do that. So when they announced it, that's why I got so excited, because those are ideas that I've had and I've talked about. And those of you who have watched my old videos, even going back to Utechnics, I've talked about that stuff. And that's something that I consider innovative in a sense. So I'm excited about that. And online's not something that, like I've always been an offline gamer first, offline career mode, and I'm still there. But this is making me excited about online, and I've never felt that way about any NASCAR game. So that's big. And this league tab, so what else could it mean? So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in making assumptions, but what else could that mean? Because that would be awesome, right? Am I the only one who thinks that's exciting? And that'd be awesome, because you can organize a league and just sign in, and you got stats. And you guys know how I feel about statistics, and I'm telling you, the more I think about it, the more excited I get. And I'm going through this roller coaster ride because, like I said, the marketing. Whenever they do something like playing the game with somebody and showing it, the way they do it, and when they mention that the certain things they say that kind of bring me a little down, when they talk about how last year's game was too easy. Little comments they make, maybe I read too far into it, and that's what brings me down. But when you really think about it, and you think about how many things they've announced for this game, it's a lot of stuff. So I think it's okay to feel excited. And I know a lot of you guys are still down, and you're like, you know what? Because you still got that negativity from the first game, and I totally understand that. But one of the reasons I think people are really upset about last year's game is because we were all coming off of Eutechnics, and Eutechnics really kicked our asses, man. They fucking made one promise after the next, and they released 5 straight years of games that they were the same in so many ways. There was no real improvements. It was such a rip-off. And when 704 came along and they released that first game, we were all expecting so much more, and they didn't deliver. But most of the reason they didn't deliver is just because the game was bare bones. It felt like a demo. And then the other major flaw for me is the broken caution system. Now, the physics and the handling and stuff, it's not like as good of a simulation like Project Cars or any of these, or Assetto Corsa, these other games. But that's okay, because when you think about it, even the best NASCAR games, they weren't really better than NASCAR Heat was in terms of physics and handling. I mean, I don't remember them being better. So those games were still great. They were enjoyable because of the other things. This is why I remind people, it's about all the details, the whole package as a whole. So even if the physics and handling aren't like the best, if the AI is good and it races you properly and it behaves properly and it has good instincts and self-awareness, it will give you challenge, and it'll still give you a fun race. So as long as all the things work well together, then even the things that fall short are not enough to sink the game. And that's why I'm excited, because they've added so much to this game that I'm 99.9% sure this game is definitely going to be much better than last year, if only because of all the additional features, right? We know that just adding the trucks and the Xfinity and stuff is not enough to just say, okay, this is all that matters. Everything matters. But they've added so much. They've announced so much, right? We haven't seen everything yet, but we're getting the 3 Series. We're getting statistics. And this online stuff, I'm starting to get excited about the online. If you could run leagues, that's huge. Then you got stats. People care, man. I'm telling you. When you play this game and you got stats and you're following it, you're going to care about your finish. And maybe you won't drive like a dick. Maybe you'll say, you know what? I'll take a top 5. instead of trying to wreck. And it's just, right now, online multiplayer is meaningless. It has no meaning to it. Statistics and this ability to set up a league, and then you're going to have cautions. Now, see, this is the other thing I want to talk about. I also talked about how I was worried that they haven't mentioned anything about that they fixed the caution, or that they tried to improve the AI, or any of the other stuff, right? They haven't talked about it at all. So my first instinct is to say, if they're not talking about it at all, I think they're completely ignoring it, or, you know, I don't know what to think, and it worries me. But like I said, you never know when you could be surprised. This league tab, you know, when I saw that on the menu, I'm like, oh shit, look at that, man. I'm kind of pumped for that. So I'm thinking, you know what? It would be crazy to think that these guys been working on this game for a year. They never patched the last year's game, by the way, and that's what really bothered me too. Like, with the caution system and the AI and the AI pit strategy, they never tried to fix it. They didn't really put out any patches, okay? And that bothered me. You know, you put out a game and it has these major issues, you have an obligation to patch it, right? And they didn't. And I think, I'm starting to think, now I might be reading into it, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but right now I'm kind of excited, so indulge me for a second. I'm starting to think, hey, you know what? These guys, they are trying, all right? They're not Eutechnics. And that much I'm starting to see. So the fact that they've added so much to the game, and they've announced it, and, you know, I do believe these guys have good intentions, all right? Is the game going to have issues? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. But, you know, I'm being constructive, and I'm just saying, if they really are successful at adding everything they've announced, and I'm seeing a couple of things that are kind of surprising that I really didn't expect, I'm having a feeling like this game is really going to be a pleasant surprise for most people. I'm not ready to do a prediction video yet. I need to see more information. There's still 2 months to go. But, you know, and they've announced that the sound is not going to be the final sound of the game. This isn't the way that the cars are going to sound. So that's good news too, you know. So maybe they are working on that. So, you know, I have more reason to feel optimistic than not feel optimistic. And so now that I've had a little more time to reflect on the trailer, and like, this was great, man. I love finding surprises. And when you play games, this is why I'm big into presentation, right? Presentation's important in a game. And for example, in my opinion, right, the pinnacle of NASCAR games are the NASCAR Thunder series. And I would say Dirt to Daytona was another really awesome game. So you got NASCAR Thunder 2003, 2004, 2005, and the Dirt to Daytona game, right? So you could lump those in together. Some people like one a little more than the other, but here's what I take away from those games, right? This is why a part of the reason why certain games stick with you, because there's little details. It's the little details that you never forget. And the things I remember most about, like, some of those games, I remember, like, the presentation being great. The pre-race, where no matter where you started in the field, they would run down the whole field during the warm-up lap, and you'd hear the announcer talking about the field and going down the field and saying, and starting in row whatever, and then you would be in there somewhere. I kind of remember that, and that's so, I miss that. But that's why I remember those games with fondness, because of things like that. Then I remember, and I don't remember which game, where I think it's the one where you had the rivalries, and after the race, if you had contact with another driver or somebody that you've had a rivalry with, you'd run into each other in the pits after the race and have people like breaking you apart and you trying to fight each other. You know, it's simple stuff. It's presentation, but it matters. And those are things that people remember about those games. And you remember and you're like, man, I remember that. That was cool. I miss that. We don't get that anymore. And that's why I talk about presentation and the importance of presentation. And I'm really hoping that there are some surprises in the game like that, right? Because they did say they know that the career mode wasn't in depth and it wasn't, so they worked on that. And I hope that part of that means presentation. And I hope they threw in some extra stuff. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it. And that stuff matters, you know, it's those little details. And I want to hear, I'd love to hear some commentary, pre-race, post-race, getting to, you know, that's what immerses you into the career. It's not just about showing up on race day. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. I'm not letting my expectations get too far ahead, but just taking in what they've announced is going to be in the game, and seeing the trailer, and now really diving a little further into it, and that I'm telling you that even the online, you know, there's the race types, right? So you got single. So that, I guess you're gonna be able to run, you know, like a 4-race, like they did announce that, like 4 races, and you have some kind of mini playoff. That's gonna be so awesome, and you're gonna. And this is the other thing. Before I forget, as I was saying before, you know, I was worried about them not talking at all about the caution or the AI, like whether or not they tried to improve it. But it doesn't make sense that they would add a caution system to the online unless they worked on it, because they have to know it was broken. So they must have put some time into it. Now I'm just using logic, right? It would be really fucked up if they didn't try to fix it. And they never tried to patch last year's. They kind of abandoned it. And I'm hoping they took a different approach. And they do seem like they're trying. So I'd be shocked if we saw this and they just threw in the old caution system as bad as it was and just said, it's in the game. They must have worked on it. So what do you guys think? You know, I'm trying to use some logic, and I really feel good about where the game's headed. I'm not saying, hey, this is going to be the greatest game, but how can it not be a big improvement over last year? I mean, they did set the bar pretty low last year. And even, and in all fairness, I didn't destroy last year's game. A lot of people did. I did praise them. They were able to run 40 players online. And that's not something I thought we would see anytime soon. So they deserved credit for it, and I gave them credit for it. And I gave them credit because the AI, all in all, it was much more stable than anything Eutechnics did. That AI was crazy. So even though my issues with the AI are twofold, there's they stay in packs, right? They don't break apart. Break these cars apart. After the first 2 or 3 laps, they should start spreading out, right? And running different lines. You know, the way it is with Evolution, they stay in packs and for 30, 40 laps, and you'll see the same group of cars in a pack, and then they run the same line. They're very difficult to pass, and almost every track, most of your passes have to be made on the outside. So that needs to be, addressed. And the other thing with the AI is the pit strategy, which is horrendous. Staying out on a caution 90% of the time and then pitting under green flag while you pitted under caution. It's just handing you easy top 5s and wins. It's just crazy. It ruins it's almost a game-breaking issue. And the broken caution system. So those are my main gripes about last year's game, outside of the bare bones nature of it. But they did some good things, and the AI was pretty stable and raced you pretty decently. I did not like the rubber banding. I hope that's gone. But that and the running 40 players, and I found the online stable. You know, some people claim that it wasn't very stable, but I never saw that. You know, so they did some decent things with the first game. I just don't think it was ready for prime time. And it's starting to look like this game is the game that should have been the first game. So it would have sucked if we didn't have any game at all last year, right? But I think getting us that game kind of was a double-edged sword. We were able to get that game, you know, without waiting. But then coming off Eutechnics, it was a disappointment. And then not having even a paint booth, and Eutechnics gave us paint booth. So they kind of, that's what I mean by double-edged sword. So they painted themselves into a bad spot, into a corner, and it kind of bit them. So hopefully they learned from that. They do seem to have learned some lessons. The marketing is still an issue for me. The things that they do and say, and you know, there's still a lot of big question marks. But overall, I'm excited for the game. The trailer got me excited. The initial announcements of all this stuff that's going to be in the game, adding the other two series. Man, I could go on. There's a lot of stuff. And then yesterday, finding that tab that said League, it has to be that you could run leagues online. So what do you guys think? Are you as excited as I am? I know a lot of you guys are still pessimistic, but think about it for a second. Add up all the things that they've announced that are going to be in the game right now. You can say some of this stuff may not work as good, or we don't know till we get the game, but they've announced certain things, features, and that is that's not something that's like a maybe, right? So they announced there's going to be trucks in Xfinity. It's in the game. Okay, how it works is another story. But when you just look at all the things they said, there's going to be stats, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. How could you not feel some excitement? You know, is what I'm thinking. Now, I've been very critical of them, but I stand behind everything I've said. And my criticism has always been constructive. A lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people seem to have an issue, and there's a little backlash. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm starting to feel like somebody's listening. And I wish I had the ability to edit, because I know a lot of the things I'm talking about may not come across the way I intended. And if I could show video and I could show you these things I'm talking about with these older games as I'm explaining what I want to see, it's always better for you watching, and then you could say, man, that is cool. I get it. So that's why my videos are always long, because I try my best to describe and explain my opinions so that you don't walk away with the wrong impression. And in spite of that, you know, people still sometimes get the wrong impression, but I can't do anything about that. But what do you guys think about this online league stuff? I haven't heard them talk about it, so this is all speculation. But I saw it on the screen, and I love that stuff. Like finding stuff like that, and that's, to me, that's the kind of surprises I was talking about, that sometimes it's good to not just reveal everything and let people just find this stuff on their own. And even when you get it and start playing the game and it's like, wow, look at this, this is cool. Just see things that you didn't know were in the game. So how do you guys feel about that? And I'm, like I said, I can't contain it, you know. I know I've been there. Like, I'll get excited, then I see something and I'm up and down. It's a roller coaster ride, but I can't help it, man. I've really sat back and I counted all the stuff they're adding. I got to give them some credit for the effort, okay? And hopefully it comes through in the game. So I look forward to your comments, and until there's more information and I do another video, I'll see you guys around.